Hi guys, and welcome to the Unspoken Collective. If you're someone returning to the channel, welcome back, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. So I'm Steph, and today we're going to be talking about insecurity and projection. Now, there are 4 types that I wanted to discuss, and these are just all things that I've had personal experience in and kind of just wanted to share and touch on. I mean, of course, there are many other, let's say, facets of it, but these are just the ones that I thought were quite common and probably more easy to discuss ways in which to deal with it. So the first one is ascribing intention. Now, this is a little different from the others because this one can be something that you do personally, and it's no attack, no means of attack or anything like that. We all do it in one way or another. So ascribing intention is the act of assuming that someone is doing something negative toward you, or someone or a group of people, without actually having any real evidence, of their motives. Now, this can be quite dangerous because, say, in a new setting, if you've just started at a new school or a new workplace, to assume instantly that people are out to get you or something like that can be quite dangerous, and limiting yourself to not meeting new people or being standoffish toward people, and in return they then become standoffish toward you, but your mind will register it that they have a problem with you when it's not always the case. And so a way to deal with this would be to sit and think about the actions of this person or the group of people, and over time you have to ask yourself, are they consistently like this? If yes, then unfortunately it's likely that maybe these people do have some bad intentions toward you. But if no, then it could just be maybe a day that you're feeling a little insecure and projecting that out toward other people's actions, or they could even be feeling maybe not so much insecure, but just be having an off day, and maybe you take it personally or think that it's toward you. That could also happen in the reverse, but I just wanted to give this first example as something that perhaps is happening internally and comes out externally. Now, the next 3 will be the opposite. So say someone doing these toward you because of their insecurities. So the first one is mimicry. Now, this is quite a weird one, and not always easy to try and explain to people or to grasp as a concept, because there's that saying, imitation is the highest form of flattery. Well, yeah, it can be to an extent. After a while it can become a little bit weird, grating even. So let's give the example that someone in your environment isn't as confident in themselves. Now, this isn't to say that you should have anything against that person. You don't know what they're going through or what they've been through, but also reserve a little bit of space for yourself to feel comfortable to be you, and to not feel like you have to hide who you are or limit what you say because this person is going to try and pass it off a couple of days down the line when you're not there. You can see how these things would build up, right? It's like identity thief, but on a soulful level. And if you are someone who's spent time building your soul up and healing, then it can be a little bit unfair, let's say. So a way to deal with this would be, if possible, avoiding that person. Now, if this isn't like a work environment and it's someone maybe on your department floor, it's not always easy. If you have to have meetings with them and you're constantly around them, they could even be someone who work-wise is like an authoritative figure, then it can be hard because there's only so much you can do. But in the case if it was someone, say, in your school or your university or college, then I guess you can limit, talking to that person or being around them to just when you have to, when you're scheduled. Maybe, duck out of the occasional social event. Now, the danger in this is that it can, lead to you limiting what you do and who you are in some respects. But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can control. You can always control what you do. It does become dangerous if you try to control what others do, and you just don't want to put yourself in that position where you're compromising your sanity to try and get back at this person, because you just don't know where it will end. So I'd say limiting the time that you spend around them is probably the best way to deal with this one. And also, if you're planning to do something, whether it's just like an outfit, or you have like a business idea, or even just any sort of creative venture or anything, try and limit who you tell, before you actually are ready to present this idea or this outfit or whatever it is, or even something that you might buy or get, so that you know that there's very little chance that this person can find out beforehand and do some research and, try and jump in on it before you. But that's one way. Then there's passive aggression. This is, it's one that can take form in many different situations. This could happen in a workplace, it could happen in relationships, it can happen in friendships, any family setting as well. So with passive aggression, it's usually having someone in a close environment who is purposely trying to unsettle you. Now, I use the word unsettle because it's this something very calculated about it. This idea that they're not doing anything directly toward you physically, but they are indirectly maybe slamming doors or sighing a lot when they're around you, just something to let you know that something is off, but we're not going to talk about it. Now, that it's horrible. And it's one of those things that if the other person is insecure, then passive aggression can be something they turn to, because it's not them inflicting any harm on you, because they may not actually want to, but this could just be their go-to in, unfortunately, dealing with their insecurity and their projection of it. So the way to probably deal with this, or the best way that you could deal with it, is talking to the person directly. Now, depending on who it is, you may have to go about this in a different manner. If it's someone at work, then I would probably suggest going through it through HR. So you make the situation known. Even if something isn't changed the first time, always alert someone at work, even if it's a really close colleague that you trust. Alert someone that this is happening. So if this person were to do it again within your vicinity and that co-worker's vicinity, your close colleague, then someone can note it, because it's not always easy to tell. And I'm going to use this word, it comes up also racially, microaggressions. They're real. We will probably talk about that. No, we will talk about that in another video, but for now, let's just use this in terms of, just general passive aggression someone has because of their insecurities towards you as an individual, just because. So in a work setting, deal with that through HR, talking to a really close colleague or friend that could maybe keep a lookout for you as well. Not to sort of catch the person out, but to ensure, this is what is happening, and then you can take it forward. And I say this because obviously you don't want to go making accusations or, get yourself into something that could cost you your job or your position or whatever. So another way is, if it's a partner or a close friend, call the person out. If they've done it enough times that you feel the same way every time they do it, and it's done when certain things happen, like, I don't know, they want you to drink and you say, actually I don't really feel like drinking tonight, then suddenly, you know, it's all, you know, their mood changes or anything else, but you notice the repeating patterns of when they do it, when it's, you know, something good has happened for you, or you haven't quite done something the way they want it. Call them out. Because a lot of the time people think they're being covert enough to do it without you noticing, but with you noticing. So what you do is you call them out. A lot of the time they won't be expecting it. And actually, even if they deny it, they now know that you know. So if they do it again, then you can take it. This person, they have some insecurities and issues they need to work on, and they're trying to project it onto you. You then, of course, I mean, depending on the severity of it, you have the choice to take yourself out of that situation, or, you know, work on it. Ask them, you know, what is it that you feel you need to be this way when X, Y, or Z happens? And the final one is exclusion and avoidance. Now, this is a little bit similar to the passive aggression, except it's more of a direct approach. So if you imagine, you know, again, you could be any sort of like social setting, and say work again, and you notice that there's always drinks planned, but you're always the last one to find out about it. Maybe you find out through social media, or someone else kind of lets slip because they ask you if you're going and it's on the night, and you're like, well, I didn't know about it. This could be, you know, something that is initiated by one person within that group setting, or it could be, you know, a couple of people or the whole group. I mean, that would be really unfortunate. But let's just say if it was like one individual. Now, what's happening here is their insecurity is perhaps, I don't know, you are really good at work, you've been doing really well, and it just reminds that person that they actually have a lot of work to catch up on. So for them, they'd rather not have you around. To exclude you out of the group means you're kind of out of sight, out of mind. Or it just lets that person know that, you know, you're not even bothering them, but you are. But they're choosing to try and keep you out of that group, so you're not around. Or someone who may feel, oh, if I invite this person, you, to a party, say, you know, they feel that you may get on really well with some of their friends, or, now this sounds really bizarre, but I am sure there are many people who've probably been through these situations, but it's a very hard thing to rationalize sometimes, because it sounds far-fetched, but projection really can go that far. Now, in this instance, I'd say the best way to deal with it, again, is to confront the person or the people. If you feel you have, you know, enough of an understanding that it's happened again more than once, or you again take yourself out of that social setting if you can. It's not always easy, and it's not always nice, especially if it's people that you see regularly or people that you thought were your friends, but it's never worth the sort of questioning or the added anxiety to a place where you have to be all the time, or a friendship group. You know, there are so many more people in the world that you can be out with and get along with. So anyway, that concludes the 4 types, I'd say, the 4 types I wanted to discuss of insecurity and projection. Again, they're not always easy to pick up on, and I would say you'd have to have been around the person long enough to notice it happen more than once or frequently enough for it to be something that sticks in your mind. Now, quite often what will happen is you'll have a point where someone will do something where they finally amp up the projection just a little bit more in these cases, and it takes you back to that first initial event when it happened. If that happens, then it's quite likely that this person is triggering the same emotion in you, and it can be them projecting their insecurity. We can't do the work for others, but what we can do is try and shield ourselves. Now, going back to the first point, it is important that you do also continue to work on yourself. So when we are checking in with ourselves, we're finding where the source of insecurity is coming from. It could be from you, or it could be from, someone external to you. Sometimes it could be coming from both sides. And in these situations, if the person is close enough to you, the two of you could probably sit and, discuss it, talk about it, find out where it's coming from and how you could possibly work around it. Now, this probably wouldn't happen in one conversation, but eventually you may be able to work through it. And if not, then maybe time to call it quits. Harder in some relations if it's family or work where you have to rely on the income, but savage. So that concludes today's video on projection and insecurity. Hopefully you've come away with some points, if not all, that you've recognized or maybe experienced. Hopefully not, but if you have, there are ways to deal with it, or should it come up, you'll know how to deal with it. And it really is worth taking a look at yourself and your surroundings, checking in with your environment and what you're surrounding yourself with. So thank you so much for being with us today, and we hope to see you back again soon. As always, like, comment, share, and definitely subscribe to keep yourself updated with any more content that we have coming out. Bye guys.